Hi guys, so my name is Natalie Fine, and I did my research paper on the controversial subject of social media and teenagers and how it affects them growing up and the social aspects from it that they encounter in school. So the title of my research paper is called Teenagers and Twitter, How Using Social Media Affects Adolescents. So I broke my paper up into three main categories. So the first category about my paper is communication, and the first subcategory under that is indirect communication. So basically, in that section, I talk about how teenagers are so involved in social media and that their communication skills are being affected. And so they're partaking in indirect communication, which is pretty much just like one-on-one in your screen. You're not communicating with others face to face. So because of that, they are lacking the social cues of learning things about body language, facial expressions, vocal reactions, like pitches and stuff. So they're getting taken out of like these really personal things that you experience when you're talking to somebody face to face because they're so indulged in on their phones. And so going back to the social skills aspect of communication, because they're not communicating often face to face, except when they pretty much have to, like if their parents ask them a question, something like that. But like most of the time, they're sitting there on their phone, so it's affecting their social skills to where they're not able to obtain good presentation skills. So obtaining like interviews and getting jobs is going to affect them in the future. And the second subcategory under communication is maintaining relationships. So because they're lacking that personal experience feeling that you have when you're talking to somebody face to face, they're lacking a sense of like emotion because they're able to block out people easier. They can keep their guard up. They take longer to respond to things so they can actually think about their text message before they send it. So maintaining relationships is a lot more difficult. Also, because so many things are so digital, when you're texting somebody, like you expect a response pretty fast because everybody's always on their phone. That also causes a lot of anxiety because now a new thing is called ghosting. So that's when somebody doesn't want to talk to you anymore, they'll just stop replying to you. So people are left with a lot of anxiety of like, well, why aren't they talking to me? Why are they ghosting me? So yeah, just little aspects about relationships and how social media is affecting that. In the second part of my research paper, I talk about how the virtual identity is affecting teenagers. So the main one, or the first part, is like how their online self isn't really so much their real self, and so the struggles that go along with that. They encounter like a lot of like disorders because they're not meeting their online self's potential technically in their real self. So I talk about a lot how like there's so much focus on creating this amazing online self. Like your Instagram's perfect, your Facebook's perfect, your Snapchat's always on point. Like, so there's this idea of like you always having to have this like perfect online image, and then your real self isn't that cool. I even have this personally with myself. I've noticed a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, your Snapchat is so funny. Like, how do you have the time to like go out all the time? Well, in reality, like I don't feel like I go out all the time. I don't think I'm that funny. So there's a there's a boundary in between like your online self and your real self. I also talk about the unrealistic idea of perfection that's portrayed on social media constantly. That's why I have this photo of Kim Kardashian right here, because she's known as like the queen of social media. She does portray a lot of like images of like Photoshop and just unrealistic body goals. And so that affects a lot of, especially young girls. It gives them like this idea of that's what I need to look like, so I need to do whatever it takes to do that. And that's where a lot of mental and physical health disorders come in, like eating disorders and anxiety and stuff like that. Also, I talk about how peer acceptance is now like a big thing. So obviously you're posting these things because you want your friends to see how cool, you want them to accept you. But now social media brings this whole new thing of acceptance by giving your peers the ability to like your stuff. So if they're liking your stuff, that means you're accepted. But if you're not getting likes on your photos, you get this sense of feeling that like, oh my gosh, why don't people like me? So that's like a big deal caused by social media. And like I mentioned, mental and physical health disorders due to unrealistic images and stuff like that that are caused in the virtual identity on social media. And then lastly, I talk about what can adults do to help stop their risk. So since we will be parents, hopefully one day, and teachers, there are some things that you can actually do, especially as technology is still going. There are some things that you guys can do to prevent your teenagers and your adolescent children and your students from getting involved with these really severe risks that social media comes with. So for parents, it's important to set an example of healthy computer usage. So by establishing like technology-free zones in the house, don't give your child a phone at 5 years old. Like I understand I got my phone when I entered 6th grade and I still think that was really young. But now you see 3rd graders with phones. So try to delay the first usage of a cell phone as long as possible. Also, they're going to get social media. So it's important as a parent to monitor their social media accounts. I don't know if you've watched a lot of documentaries like on Netflix and stuff, but they do publish a lot of documentaries based on like how social media has caused like people to commit suicide. So teenagers committing suicide. So it's really important to monitor your children's social media. So that way you can catch those signs before they actually occur, because most of the time you'll be able to see like what they're posting and why and how they're feeling, because that's what you're usually posting on social media. So that's really important for parents. As for teachers or coaches or other members in the community, it's important to try and encourage and get students involved. So get them in after-school programs, get them involved in sports, show them other activities that they can do in the community, like go and do community service things, volunteer, like because schools offer such a wide platform of so many activities and programs that get students involved on campus and outside of campus. It's important that we reach out to students and get them involved. And on top of that, a good incentive is that it's important to add these things into their college resume. So that's always a adder. So that pretty much concludes my research paper. Thank you.